What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we are in the bye week, but the trade deadline is quickly approaching, and there are three names that have emerged that the Pittsburgh Steelers are aggressively pursuing before Tuesday at 4 p.m. It is the middle of the season, and with that, we'll have some fun during the bye week. We're diving into our All Steelers Talk Midseason Awards, and we got some good ones. And then it is Thursday, and this is week 3 of this, week 4 of this. You're muted, but
I believe it's week 4.
Yeah, we're going to go week 4 of what's more likely, and then we'll answer all of your questions as we do to end every show. I apologize that we ran a little bit late today, had some camera issues, but it's all right. We're here. We're ready. Happy Halloween. I got my Alani Witch's Brew.
Ooh.
Festive today.
There you go.
How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling good. I thought about dressing up, and then I realized that takes effort, and I had way too much going on today to be able to think about a costume. But happy Halloween to everybody that is going out there. Stay safe. Make sure you look both ways, because some drivers don't care that it's Halloween or don't remember that it is. So just be careful and enjoy one of the more fun holidays of the year.
I agree. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. Happy Halloween to everybody who celebrates. And I also thought about dressing up, and then my mind went more to, do I want to sit here for an hour in a costume? And on top of that, I'm gonna bag on my wife a little bit, and she's gonna be mad at this. So she is every time we talk about her on here, which is pretty frequent. She won't let me dress up. She won't let me do anything spooky for Halloween and spook the kids, because she's not like, she won't go to a haunted house. She doesn't do the haunted hayride. She ain't about that life. So she won't let me. Yeah, I want to hide in the bushes. You know what I mean? You know, you got to earn your candy at the Strackbein house. It's not about it. So I'd have to take it off. It felt like a hassle. But I agree. Should have thought about it. Maybe next year let's just say I dressed up as Nick. Nick dressed up as me. We are essentially the same thing. So shout out. Happy Halloween. Let's talk some Pittsburgh Steelers. There was one major headline that circulated all throughout the news today, caught everybody's attention early in the morning, and then no one has stopped talking about it since, and that is Tony Pauline saying that there are 3 names the Pittsburgh Steelers are pursuing aggressively as they look to add a wide receiver before the trade deadline, which is Tuesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. Excuse me. Obviously, the most important thing that will happen on November 4th by 4 p.m. Those 3 names: Mike Williams of the New York Jets, which is no surprise to anybody; Darius Slayton of the New York Giants, which is no surprise to anybody; and Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos reemerges, is back on the market for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We were asked about a rumor yesterday. I said, I don't believe that there's a shot that he will be available for the Pittsburgh Steelers, simply because the Denver Broncos are still in the running for this. So I, reached out to some people in Denver. I got absolutely nowhere with anything. So I called Old Reliable. That Old Reliable was my dad. And I said, hey, you're a Denver Broncos fan. Would they trade Courtland Sutton even though that they're hunting for the playoffs? And he said, I don't know what they would do, but none of it makes any sense. And I said, all right, that's a yes. We're here. We've done this. The Denver Broncos would presumably put Courtland Sutton on the market. You hear those 3 names, I got a lot of thoughts. My first is Mike Williams is where the bar starts, and I believe Courtland Sutton is where the bar ends. You start high, finish low. So if you're shooting for the moon, you're going Courtland Sutton and saying this is the best of the best available right now. Why not make it happen? We're just going to try. We're going to shoot for the stars and hope that we, at bare minimum, land on a cloud, even if that cloud is very light and very close to the earth. We're gonna try to make it happen. Number 2 is Darius Slayton, and this one comes with so much to talk about. I mean, the New York Giants apparently want to get blown away with an offer for a guy who's on the last year of his contract, and the Giants stink. That doesn't make any sense to me. But at the end of it all, with the trade deadline approaching, typically guys who are on the market for the must be blown away price tend to go for a little bit less because by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, teams start to realize, oh, okay, look, we're 2-5. Let's just take what we could get at the end of this. We tried to kind of, weasel our way into a bigger deal. It didn't really work out. I could see Darius Slayton's price tag being here today and maybe here or here by Tuesday, which makes life much easier and makes much more sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Mike Williams is okay, we tried everything we could try. We did everything we can do. Let's just go get Mike Williams and hope that it works out. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. But to add to that one, Alan Lazard went on IR today with, I believe, a chest injury. So he's out at least 4 weeks. You got to guess that the Jets are still looking at this and saying, well, Mike Williams is now our 3. Again, the good part there is you fall to 2-7. I mean, without a head coach, your quarterback isn't doing it anymore. He's definitely on the last leg of his career. At that point, is it over? Like, do you just trade everybody just to trade everybody? Doesn't really matter. I think it's 3 tiers. You start with Courtland Sutton. That's where the phone calls should be. It ends with Mike Williams, which is where the conversations should end. Do you feel any differently about where the Steelers should go if these are the 3 names that we should now be watching out for?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my head, and honestly, it's kind of been going through my head for the first 6 minutes after I started thinking about Courtland Sutton, is just I got stained in my head. Just it's been a while. It's been a long while since we've been talking about Courtland Sutton. That was one of the players that we were talking about in the offseason, right? And all of a sudden, it looked like the Denver Broncos, they were going to figure it out contract-wise. He was going to stay in Denver. And now they are a playoff team, but now his name pops up once again. So it has been a while since Courtland Sutton's kind of been in this conversation. I'm glad he's back in it because right now, of these 3 names, I agree with you. He is the name that, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, he moves the needle the most out of these 3. But I don't hate the Darius Slayton thing. We talked about that a couple days this week simply because, I mean, he torched the Steelers secondary on Monday night. So when you really see it that up close in person, you have to imagine that so too did Omar Khan. So too did Zach Azzani and Arthur Smith, and Mike Tomlin said, that guy wouldn't look bad. And that guy might actually help our cause. That might be what we're looking for. But I do think that, once again, Mike Williams, you mentioned, if you land on a cloud, it might be close to earth. The way that he has performed over the last couple of seasons, plus the injury history, I think that's more fog than a cloud.
Yes. Yes. You got me twice there. You got me 2 times in that little spiel. Yes, I agree with you. I don't think it moves the bar much, to be honest with you. Here's the thing with Mike Williams. People will say, well, why would you even make a trade? Well, if you could get him for a 6th round pick, you make any trade. Who cares? And if Deontay Johnson's going for a pick that essentially moves the Carolina Panthers up like 4 spots in the 6th round, that's what they did. Did you see that? You're giving up a 6th round pick, which will be the first pick in the 6th round for Deontay Johnson, and a 5th round pick from the Ravens, which means that you go from 33 to like 24. That's David Tepper, man. Shout out. If Deontay Johnson is going for a 5th round pick, then Mike Williams is going for a 6th or a 7th. He's not going for much, if anything at all. It's just to get rid of him so that we could make a move and add something, because at this point we just need to do anything we can and sell as much house as possible so that next year maybe is a little bit better and we can restart this in a different light. And I mean, I don't know. That's where we stand right now. But at the same time, Mike Williams, and maybe I'm wrong here, Mike Williams, in my eyes, kind of has Super Bowl winning catch written all over him. Just has McCole Hardman, didn't do anything all year, and then boom, makes that. But Juju Smith-Schuster, boom, wins the Super Bowl for the Kansas City. He just has that written on him. That, you make a move from a bad team, and he stays pretty quiet, and then Russ finds him in the back of the end zone with 1:30 left, and there it is. Mike Williams goes down in Pittsburgh Steelers history. He just kind of has that written on him, which is not a needle mover. But if the rest of your team could get you there, I mean, okay. And I'd feel okay about the rest of this team getting them there, or at least giving them a shot to get there. And then Mike Williams doing something somewhere along the way. I don't know. Would you Would you take these three names, or at least any of these three names, over a guy like Adam Thielen?
The problem with Thielen is if this was before his injury this year, I'd say undoubtedly. Right now, we're not sure how healthy he is. He's a participant in practice this week for the Panthers, but at the same time, he has been out for the past, I believe it's 4 or 5 weeks. You just don't know where you're getting at this point. And I guess it's the same thing with Mike Williams. I mean, how much does he raise the bar? I don't know. So I think I'd probably put him in kind of the same category right now as Mike Williams, and I would still put Slayton and I would still put Cortland Sutton above Adam Thielen. But if Thielen comes out and he plays at the top level of his game, I know he's a little bit older now, but if he plays, similarly to what we've seen of him in Carolina, I think it helps a little bit. I don't think it moves the needle again as much as those other two names we already talked about.
I agree. I think overall, Adam Thielen is the best of the group outside of Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's the one. If you could get Cortland Sutton, that's the guy. He's been the guy for a long time. I mean, we were talking Cortland Sutton makes more sense than Brandon Ayuk at times. That was conversations we were having. Cortland Sutton, I mean, he fits the Steelers offense. He's physical. He's an outside option that runs shorter routes or could be a deep threat. That's what you're looking for. He's essentially Van Jefferson, but much better. And he's younger, and he's got another year on his deal. I mean, that is the perfect scenario for the Pitts. And that deal is not expensive. I think next year he makes like $18 million. That's the perfect situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Adam Thielen would, again, just like you said, if he's healthy and if you could get him back and you feel good that he's healthy, if you could make a trade in time to where he could come here, get a physical, see if he passes that physical. If he doesn't pass it, you have time to go get a Darius Slayton or a Mike Williams, then yeah, I mean, who would be against Adam Thielen? But if he's not healthy, he's not worth anything, and if he's going to continue to get hurt, he's not worth anything. And that's not what the Steelers are looking for. They need somebody who could come in here and contribute. I think Thielen's a guy that if he was healthy enough, if he could come in here, your doctors felt good enough about him, because they do. Like, the Steelers would not make a trade and say, oh, you don't need to come pass a physical. No, you would come and they would stare at every part of your body and figure out what the chances of you getting hurt again are this season. And if that's good and they feel good about it, like he's somebody that could come in clutch in such key moments, and you'd expect him to come in clutch in such key moments. But just like you said, he's hurt, and I just don't know if he is healthy. And you kind of get the sense that he is not. They make a move. Let's go tiers. That's how we'll finish this conversation off. They get Cortland Sutton. You could give me a quick hitter here. Does it raise their bar to any further or closer to a Super Bowl contender?
That puts them in the top 2 or 3 in my eyes. Right now, I put them in the top 5. I think they solidify as a top 2 or 3 if they get Sutton.
Darius Slayton
keeps them right where they're at.
And Mike Williams
makes no impact at all.
I agree. We'll see what happens. Tuesday's coming fast. Those are the 3 names to watch, according to Tony Pauline. We'll see. Cortland Sutton on that list is very interesting. And whoever asked that question yesterday that we said, I don't know, I haven't heard those rumors. You were ahead of the game, my friend. So shout out to you. Head of the game. All right. It's the middle of the season. I'm excited for this one. I woke up this morning, was thinking about some things that we can do, some conversations that we could have. I figured, we could talk wide receiver all day. Nobody really cares at this point. I mean, you gotta keep up with it, but you got to do other things too. Then I realized it's week 8. Let's going into week 9. We're at the midpoint. This is the middle of the season, and it's the bye week. And while the trade deadline is coming, you want to know what we should talk about? Who are the best players on the Pittsburgh Steelers? Who are the most improved players on the Pittsburgh Steelers? And who wins midseason awards in 2024? I got a list for you guys of the All Steelers Talk mid-season award. I actually, before we dive into this, because this is, again, jazzing up, should be jazzier, blah, 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 reached out. We're making some moves on these videos. We're making some moves on these intros. We're feeling good about it. I will say that the person communicating with me likes to text at like 2 a.m. I am not awake at 2 a.m. So the response time is slow. It's always about, you get one, you send one, you wait till you're dead asleep, you get one back, then you wake up, you send another. But in about a week, maybe a month, who knows, we will have some videos, and I'd be very excited about it. Midseason awards. I drew up a list of the names that should be honored in Pittsburgh if the Pittsburgh Steelers did their own midseason and regular season and end of season awards every single year. And to be honest, there's one person on this list that might win this award in the NFL at the end of the season because that's how damn good he is. And there's another one that just won an award. There's two on this list that just won an award. No, there's only one on this list that just won an award. Shout out to Chris Boswell for winning Special Teams Player of the Month. He is an absolute freak. Did he win or was it? Yeah, it was him.
He won.
It was him. The TJ won Defensive Player of the Week. Boswell won Special Teams Player of the Month. There's one that just won an award for Rookie of the Month. We'll dive into that, though, in a minute. The awards will start up the top here. MVP of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because this is the easy one. This is, unless we go backwards. Should we go backwards? Let's go backwards.
Probably leave MVP for last. Always leave it for last.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what they say. Leave the best for last. We're starting with Coach of the Year. I think this is the best, if we're going to be honest. But we're starting Coach of the Year, and there is no question. You could go Arthur Smith, and you could talk Arthur Smith. He was a close second. We'll say he was a close second. But the inconsistencies were here and there at the beginning of the season. I get it. You went 4-2 with Justin Fields. All credit to you. You got a running back that has 300-yard games back to back to back. You've turned Russell Wilson into old Cook and Russ. You're getting the most out of George Pickens. Darnell Washington is making noise for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everything and anything is going right for these guys. And Arthur Smith deserves all the credit. But you want to know who the midseason Coach of the Year is in Pittsburgh right now? It's the man with 75 pieces of gum in his mouth every single weekend. The one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, the Yinzer himself, Danny Smith. I mean, you look at this and say, this is a guy who just had a punt return, and that was not even the flashiest part of what his unit has done in the last 2 games, let alone the last 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Danny Smith has coached a unit that is absolutely unbreakable right now. And if you toss Minkah Fitzpatrick's should have been a blocked field goal in there, it just gets even better. This dude's doing, I mean, he's the best, man. He's the best. I remember the days when people said, fire Danny Smith. I remember at the beginning of the season, people were saying, fire Danny Smith. Well, you're wrong. And you've always been wrong. Danny Smith is an absolute legend. He's been doing this forever. He'll do it till he dies. And, I mean, there is no other option. I'd name him Coach of the Year in the NFL right now, let alone Coach of the Year in Pittsburgh. But he is the midseason Coach of the Year for the Steelers. We're going comeback player of the year next. And there were options here. There were options. You could have looked at any of the new guys, any of the quarterbacks, and said, yeah, well, Russ is making moves. And Russ stunk last year. He got benched. That's how he finished his season, on the bench. Nice comeback here. He's got the Pittsburgh Steelers believing they're a contender. You can look at Calvin Austin coming a long way since that Liz Frank sprain that happened the night before the preseason opener, his rookie season. He has come a long way. You can look at, I don't even know, names like Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick coming off of injuries, doing their thing. Alex Highsmith having an unbelievable season. But you want to know who the comeback player of the year is, and I'm proud to say this one because there are a few people in Pittsburgh who deserve to succeed as much as this guy because of how good of a person he is. That is Dan Moore Jr. Dan Moore Jr. is the comeback player of the year so far this season. It's not even close. Dan Moore is a stud, my friend. He's got the left side of that offensive line clicking. Najee Harris, that cutback counter the other day where he took it 20 whatever yards, that was a thing of beauty. That does not happen without a left tackle. Dan Moore has gone from 4th-round pick that should not have played to 4th-round pick that sucked to 4th-round pick that why are we even here? Get him out of the starting lineup to he might sign another deal and Broderick Jones might be gone because right now it looks like Dan Moore is the left tackle of the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know that is a bold statement, but that is where we are through 8 weeks. If the season ended today, you do not let Dan Moore go and have the same aspirations of a Super Bowl in 2025 as the Pittsburgh Steelers would like to have. Dan Moore is, without question, comeback player of the year midway through this season. Rookie of the year here. There were two. There are two names. It wasn't Zach Frazier. I know Zach Frazier deserves some credit, but he's been dealing with an injury. Because of that, I've been going with the most recent. My first list said Mason McCormick. And that's because Mason McCormick is so slept on. This offensive line is so slept on. And he's a 4th round pick playing like a proven veteran against just powerhouse after powerhouse. Nobody even remembered that Jonah Williams. Did I say his name? No. Who's the dude in
Quinnen Williams?
Quinnen Williams. Thank you. Jonah Williams is the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Quinnen Williams even played for the New York Jets. Shout out to Mason McCormick. But the rookie of the year, and he has put this thing away over the last 2 weeks, and he just won rookie of the month for the AFC, is Beanie Bishop. 3 interceptions in 2 weeks. Put it away. Put a stamp on I am the future. Beanie's got some hiccups. He's got some ways to come in development, but man, that baseline is so much higher than an undrafted rookie. So much higher than an undrafted rookie. Beanie Bishop's got a bright future in the NFL. I hope it's in Pittsburgh because he just feels like a Pittsburgh Steeler, and he looks like a Pittsburgh Steeler when he's out there, and he gives effort like a Pittsburgh Steeler, and you got to love it. Beanie Bishop is rookie of the year, defensive player, offensive player, and MVP. That's what we got next. You got something to say?
Yeah, when you talk about the rookie of the year category right now for the Steelers, it is such a stacked group because, we didn't even mention, you obviously said Zach Frazier, but we didn't even mention Peyton Wilson.
Peyton Wilson's on
who
that.
Has stepped in and immediately been a very integral part of this defense. He's played very well. And even in the first week of the season, he had close to 50% of the snaps. I mean, talk about hitting the ground running for a linebacker for Peyton Wilson. I think he's been very good. Obviously, Zach Frazier has been good when healthy. And, the first round pick being Troy Fautanu, he looked good in his one game. We'll see what happens next year whenever he comes back. But, he left a lot for us to be excited about. So this is a really good rookie class. This is a really tough, decision to make here. But I like that you're kind of going with the guy that's jumped out ahead of everybody the last 2 weeks.
I agree. And I'm glad that you brought up Peyton Wilson. You can't go without mentioning Peyton Wilson. Definitely another honorable mention. This class is unbelievable. Defensive player of the year. I mean, this was another easy one. That defense is stacked. You got names like Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr., Minka Fitzpatrick, Dante Jackson. I mean, Patrick Queen is out there. Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton. The names go on and on and on and on and on. But it's Deshaun Elliott. It's been Deshaun Elliott since week 1 of the regular season. Since the second that he stepped on the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Deshaun Elliott has been the guy. I said it a billion times this season. I will say it 100 more. I do not know how the Pittsburgh Steelers have not had Deshaun Elliott on their roster for years because he just fits flawlessly in this defense. He's an absolute menace. I mean, Deshaun Elliott is a guy that he's young enough. He's 26 years old that if he plays another 6-7 seasons in Pittsburgh, he's going down in Pittsburgh history. I'll make that claim right now. You want to talk bold claims? He's going down in Pittsburgh history because that's how good he is. If he continues, if he stays healthy, if you give him 6 years, easy. No questions asked. He's going, him and Minka could go down as one of the craziest duos the Steelers have had. Next to Troy and Ryan, obviously. Next to Donnie Shell and, next to Mel Blount was a corner, but next to all the greats in the Rod Woodsons in Pittsburgh, there are many, okay? Minka and Deshaun, they got that. They got it right there. And nobody would have said this about Troy and Ryan the day that they showed up either, okay? 9 weeks in, it would have been a bold claim as well, because I see you looking at me like that. Mm-hmm. I see you giving me the looks. Nobody would have said it 9 weeks in. I just think Deshaun's got the it factor that is here. He's got to stay healthy. But if he stays healthy, well, like, why not? Why not? Him, Joey, Minka, Dante's 30, but you'll figure that out. You'll get somebody else. I like that. The offensive side. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, the parallels are very, very deep between Deshaun Elliott and Ryan Clark. And it goes far beyond the fact that they both wear 25, that they both play similar positions, that they both started their careers elsewhere and weren't really a big name and then kind of took over when they came to Pittsburgh. And as much as I'd like to say, hey, one day it's going to be Exactly. You know, carbon copy. Like, we'll look at it and be like, man, it was Troy and Ryan. And then about a decade and a half later, we got Deshaun and Minka. It feels, as of right now, I'm not ready to go that far yet. It feels as of right now like it's a Joe Hayden situation where it's like, loved him, was great when he was with the Steelers, but at the end of the day, he's going to be far down the list when you're just naming random secondary members.
Joe Hayden was 31.
He was a lot older. Yes.
He's 30 years old.
He was a lot more of a made man when he came to Pittsburgh than Deshaun
Look
was.
at Deshaun's 26. He's got a lot of football ahead of him. A lot of football. How many years did Ryan Clark play here? 7 years, I think. I think it was 7 years. You give him 7 years, 33, finishes his career off strong. I'm just saying, it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Ryan Clark played 8 years in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
8 years in Pittsburgh. You got to give him time. You got to give him time. Plus 25 and an ugly number, 30, 39 and 43. That's, Mink will tell you straight to his face. It's ugly numbers. Got to love them. There you go. Yeah. Offensive player of the year. This one could have went to Russ. This one could have went to George, but this is easy. And that is Najee Harris. And it's easy, Najee Harris. I mean, 3 back-to-back 100-yard games. He is the face of this offense right now. Russ is cooking. Najee is carrying the team. He's got the whole damn kitchen on his back, and he's bringing them as far as they want to go. I mean, this is Najee's best season. Easy. It's been his best performance. Easy the last 3 weeks. He looks like a made man. He looks like a dude who wants a contract, knows it's not going to come to Pittsburgh, but he wants to show the rest of the NFL, hey, I'm pretty damn good if you give me a good offensive coordinator, a decent quarterback, and some offensive linemen to run in front of, because I haven't had any of those my entire career. So, well, first-round talent, yeah, still got it. Thanks. Maybe we should do something about it. Hit the mic. I apologize. Najee Harris is a dude who, I mean, come on. Let's be realistic here. There is nobody on this offense that is more impactful to this group than Najee Harris right now. You could say Russ. They were 4-2 without Russ, okay? Najee Harris has been the backbone, and people will say, well, it's because of Russ. Yeah? Who started in Vegas? Oh, it was Justin Fields when Najee Harris had 100 yards against the Raiders. This is all Najee. I mean, that dude is a stud. He's getting the bag somewhere. It's not going to be in Pittsburgh. I wrote that this morning. That just putting it to bed here. It's a very slim chance. Kaboli gave it a 7% chance that he comes back. I think I'm giving it less than that. I think that was a good number, but I think I'd give it less than that. We'll finish it off with MVP here because I know we got other stuff to talk about. This one's, I mean, is there even another candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is there anybody else even out there that you could potentially put on this list? No. And he's been the same name for 5 years now. And I think he won it every year except for the year he tore his pec. And he made a Pro Bowl that year just because the NFL said, yeah, it's still TJ Watt. Don't forget about it. It's still TJ Watt. It's TJ Watt. He's the Pittsburgh Steelers MVP. He's been the Pittsburgh Steelers MVP. You could type the TJ Watt named Pittsburgh Steelers MVP story up at the beginning of the season, and chances are all you got to do is plug in some stats and hit post the second that the team votes him team MVP at the end of the year. No questions asked. TJ Watt is a menace. He is the most dangerous man in Pittsburgh, and TJ Watt is your Pittsburgh Steelers MVP through the midway point of the season. That's the list for those of you watching on YouTube. TJ Watt, Beanie Bishop, Dan Moore Jr. Love to see that face up there. Najee Harris, Deshaun Elliott, and then look at the man with the smile himself, Danny Smith. That is your midseason awards. We'll come back to these at the end of the year, see how we're looking, see how we hang in there, see how things change, because I'm sure that they always do. Our power rankings have taken some serious jumps over the last couple of weeks, and I would imagine our awards take some serious jumps by the end of the season. Beanie's got to hang in there, but Cam Sutton's coming back. Do you win it at the end there? I don't know. Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier will be back after the bye week, and Peyton Wilson's still going. And I just don't think we've even started to see what guys like George Pickens can do this year. So it's interesting. It'll be a good group. You got thoughts before we get into what's more likely here?
No, it's hard to disagree with a lot of those. I mean, Russell Wilson could have put his name in the hat there if he'd played more than 2 games this season. And I also think if it wasn't, I would say Justin's performance being as good as it was also helps you say, all right, well, it hasn't made as much of an impact. Russ obviously has elevated the offense. We've talked about it, but not as much as TJ Watt always elevates just the defense and the team as it's in its entirety. So I don't disagree with that one. And obviously, I mean, if you're going to go MVP is your best edge rusher, because that's kind of the defensive equivalent of the quarterback on the defensive side when it comes to how much everybody likes to talk about it, then yeah, the best player outside of TJ Watt on that defense has been Deshaun Elliott from, pillar to post, whistle to whistle, beginning of the season to now. So I like it. I love the picks. And I loved looking up Danny Smith's headshot because it was exactly what I expected it to be.
Yes. As it should be. Danny Smith's looked exactly the same. Every time I interview him, I go, dude, most people look different as they get older. You look exactly the same maybe younger. He might look younger as the year goes on. So shout out to Danny Smith. Shout out to all our midseason award winners. I'm sure they care a lot about what we have to say midway through the season. With that said, we're diving into, it's Thursday. It's week 4 of this segment, week 9 of the NFL season. And it's what's more likely. Nick, I'm going to toss it to you. I'm excited for these ones. Bye week, what's more likely, which, I mean, I don't even know what to expect. And that's what I think is most exciting about this one for me. So I'm going to toss it to you. I'm going to give you the mic here. What do you got?
Yeah, it's a bye week. We can't look ahead to a specific game. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to look ahead to the rest of this season and start off with this one. What's more likely? Najee Harris runs for 100+ yards 5 more times, or George Pickens has 100+ receiving yards 5 more times. Najee has 300-yard games. George has 2.
5 more times. There are
9 games.
9 games. You're going 4 90-yard 99 minus or less performances for Najee Harris. You play the Baltimore Ravens twice, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Baltimore Ravens defense is not very good right now. You play Kansas City, which is a defensive matchup right now. Where we stand right now, that's who's got the best defense. You play Philly. I mean, that's the Philadelphia Georgia Bulldogs right there. And they got every big man you could imagine up front. Oh my. And then you got Cleveland. And not Cincinnati. We won't put Cincinnati in there. And then Washington's defense is very good too. That's tough. I think if Najee had 2 coming in here, I'd say Najee Harris. But he's got 3. He's got 4 on the year.
3 total on the year.
He's only got 3. The 3 back to back to back. That's it. All right, I'm going George Pickens. Russ is just starting. You got to imagine they land a wide receiver, which hopefully opens some things up. George is a guy that, like, it almost surprises. I mean, he puts 2 toes down. There's 100 yards. Broderick Jones doesn't grab the dude's face mask unnecessarily. There's 100 yards. I just feel like it's much easier for George to pull this. George is a 1-catch, 90-yard guy. That's like anything can happen at any moment. You have no idea. You got to imagine that him going 90 against the Cincinnati Bengals, potentially the Washington Commanders, like that's got to be easier than Najee rushing against these guys, especially with the beat-up offensive line. I'm going to go George, and what's more likely. That's a tough one, though. That's a tough one. 5 is a lot, but I would imagine George is just getting started here with those 100-yard games.
All right, let's go over to the defensive side of the football. What's more likely? TJ Watt ends up leading the league in sacks. He is 2.5 behind Dexter Lawrence, or Dante Jackson ends up leading the league in interceptions. He is 3 behind the current leader in the clubhouse.
Oh, you got to go TJ. You'd have to put your faith in TJ in any situation, but 2 behind a nose tackle it's so surprising that Dexter Lawrence is leading the league in sacks. It's just, that's a stunner because defensive tackles don't lead the league in sacks most times. You'd have to go TJ on that one. If Aiden Hutchinson was still healthy and playing, I would say there's a slim chance because he had 5 sacks in one game. Like, he was taking this league over by storm. He was going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Now it's TJ, and they're just starting to flip sides. They're going to do everything they can to make him open and avoid chips and so on and so forth. So I I would say TJ. Dante's 3 interceptions behind the league leader. Who's the league leader?
I got to look that one back up.
What does Dante have? Do you know?
3.
3? Somebody's got 6 interceptions this season. That is wild to me, actually, that we are.
Xavier McKinney of Green Bay has 6. Kirby Joseph has 5. Marlon Humphrey and Brian Branch have 4. And then Dante is 5th right now with 3.
Yeah, you got to go, TJ. That list is just crazy. That list is crazy. McKinney it seems like he's just getting started. He's like, wow, I got out of New York. Love this. Sounds good. So, I mean, and Brian Branch, I got a lot of faith in too. There's only one corner on that list. That's nuts. You got to go. You got to go, TJ. Got to go, TJ.
Alrighty, let's go to this one. Not a what's more likely, but a who's more likely. Who is more likely to score more touchdowns in the second half of the season? Jaylen Warren or Cordero Patterson? Neither of them have reached the end zone this season yet.
The answer to this one will be controversial. But what's more likely is Cordero Patterson scores more touchdowns than Jaylen Warren. And I only say that because of opportunity. Jaylen will not get the red zone plays. Those will be Najee's. He will not get the kick returns. Those will be Cordero's. So you'd have to imagine that Jalen's getting in the end zone off of 30-plus yard runs. Whereas in Cordero, I mean, they probably put the 250-pound running back out there on the goal line and say, screw it, punch somebody. I mean, like, Cordero's a massive human being. Massive human being. You got to would imagine they're going to put him in. They would put him in over Jalen on the goal line. I mean, that final count might be like 3-2, but you'd have to imagine Cordero is the name there. What's more likely is Cordero, simply because usage where you score, you utilize the guy. He looks like an offensive lineman, man. He looks like if him and Darnell stood next to each other, you'd say those are 2 tight ends. That's a tight end and an offensive tackle. That's what you would say. So I go Cordero.
All righty, let's go down to what's more likely. Russell Wilson leads the NFL in passing yards per game this season, of which he currently sits 3rd, or Justin Fields scores at least 5 more touchdowns. He has 10 in 6 games.
No, Justin's not scoring 5 more touchdowns. He's not. He's not scoring 5 more touchdowns unless Russ gets hurt. But I will not make a what's more likely prediction off of injuries. So you got to go Russ. I mean, that's tough. But like who, like Jared, I would imagine Jared Goff leads that category, or at least is very close. Lamar is probably up there too. I would say Russ has a shot. This is something where at the end of the season, you're looking at it and going, wow, Russell Wilson leads the league in passing yards per game. That's wild. And you're having conversations with your neighbor or your buddy at the bar about how that just doesn't make any sense. But here it is, whereas in Justin Fields finishing a season with 15 touchdowns coming off the bench, I mean, that's just unheard of in the NFL. So I would go, if Russ stays healthy, what's more likely is Russ. There's a low bar for both of these, but you gotta go Russ over this one, simply because he's not going to get those opportunities.
What if I said 2? Does that change your thought? You think?
Yeah, I would go 2.
I would
go 2. I'd go 2 is more likely. I think he gets 2. 5 is a lot.
5 is a lot.
5 is if you said Najee gets 5 more rushing touchdowns this season, I'd be like, yeah, probably, most likely. So you're telling me that Justin's going to get more touchdowns in the back half than Najee? In my head, I just said 3-2 for Cordero and Jalen. That's I could see 2. I would go 2 in that situation, but 5, I'm going Russ.
Alrighty, I got one more, and then we got a couple in the comment section here. Let's go. What's more likely? The Steelers trade for one of Cooper Kupp or Cortland Sutton, or Mike Tomlin wins Coach of the Year for the first time ever?
they trade for Cooper Kupp or Cortland Sutton. And that is the easiest answer. And it has nothing to do with the possibility of the Pittsburgh Steelers trading for either of those guys. It's the fact that the NFL, no matter how good Mike Tomlin is, refuses to give this man coach of the year. And they come up with excuse after excuse after excuse on why they don't do it. Because if we're going to be honest, coach of the year should have went to Mike Tomlin the year Duck Hodges went 8-8. It should have went 8. He should have went to Mike Tomlin last year when Mason Rudolph led their asses into the playoffs. I mean, you could go back. You could go back so many times and say Mike Tomlin probably should have won coach of the year there. And they just refuse. They come up with nonsense after nonsense after nonsense about who Kevin Stefanski has won it twice. 2 times. Tell me 2 Browns teams that you think were coached better than any team in the NFL. You can't. They last year, Joe Flacco,
a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
A Super Bowl winning quarterback who's doing it again in Indianapolis. Like, it's just Mike Tomlin does it with nobodies and nothing all the time, and he does it time and time again. And I really, and the problem, what's going to screw him this year is that he did it too early. He did it in week 6. He should have did it in week 15. Should have pulled the quarterback then so that people could still be talking about it at the end of the season. But that's the ballsiest move you could make in the NFL is yanking your quarterback. They're ballsiest. Anthony Richardson is he walked off the field on his team. That does not happen. You do not leave you could crawl back to the huddle. Justin Fields, remember last year, the DJ Moore having to like literally throw him off the field because he's so disoriented. He didn't want to leave. Like, that's what a quarterback does. Anthony Richardson goes out, they bench him, and people are questioning it. Mike Tomlin benched his quarterback in the middle of the year and just said, yeah, man, screw it. I just think this is going to be better. And it was. So they'll never give it to him. It will easily be Cooper Kupp or Cortland Sutton. But that has nothing to do with Cooper Kupp or Cortland Sutton coming to Pittsburgh. It is Mike Tomlin. No matter how good he does, he could coach a Pee-wee football team and beat Andy Reid with assistant coach Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes sharing reps at quarterback, and they will still give it to somebody else before they gave it to Mike Tomlin.
All righty, let's go to the listeners' inquiries here with what's more likely, starting with Cody Silva, who says, what's more likely, Broderick Jones finishes the year strong or gets replaced by Dylan Cook?
I would guess Broderick. I would guess Broderick finishes strong. You go back and watch the tape on Broderick, okay? And there are a lot of bad plays, but there are some good ones. There are some moments of, oh, there's Broderick Jones. There he is. There, look at, good job. Good job, man. You're doing good. And I think those come and go more and more as we go on. I don't think the Steelers are going to, I think it's going to take everything in them to bench Broderick Jones a second time. And Dylan Cook is good, but he's got to get healthy. He's got to get jumping on a moving train, which is going to be difficult. I would go Broderick Jones. I think I have enough faith in Broderick Jones to say at some point he turns it around this season. When? I don't know, but at some point.
All righty, let's go over to Carl Spackler, who says, what's more likely, Calvin Austin has more kick return touchdowns or Minka has more interceptions by the end of the year?
Are we gonna keep it kick? Or are we gonna go punt?
All kicks, punts.
Okay.
He's a punt returner.
He's not gonna take
any returns.
Okay, he's not gonna take any kicks, but I still think that would be even. Let's break it even. I'm gonna go Calvin. He's got a 1-0 lead. There's a pretty good shot he keeps that 1-0 lead. Like, until Minka comes up with an interception, you can't believe that he's gonna come up with an interception.
And he hasn't been close very, very much.
No, that's the thing, is he's just not anywhere near the ball in the air. And I don't know if that's Minka. You know, it just doesn't seem like they're ever throwing to where Minka is or giving Minka an opportunity to come up with it. He's near hitting guys, and maybe that's what he's looking for now. He's just ready to lay some blows on people, and he's just like, screw it, I'm angry. I'm ready to just take this out a little bit, which wouldn't surprise me. Minka, this scary guy. I would say Calvin. I think Calvin's going to break another one, and 2 is way more than enough to beat Minka in interceptions where we stand right now, simply because it just doesn't look like he's going to get any. He just doesn't look like he's going to get any. I'm going Calvin Austin.
Alrighty, let's go to X Concepts, who says, what's more likely, Darnell Washington or Pat Fryermuth lead the tight end room in touchdowns this year? Right now, it is 2-1 in favor of Fryermuth.
Yeah, it's going to be Pat Fryermuth. What's more likely is Pat Fryermuth. And that's just, Pat gets those little shuffle passes. Pat's the guy that'll catch a 25-yard touchdown. Pat's a guy that could catch it at the 30 and find his way to the end zone. It's just more options, more availability, more ways to get into the end zone, more utilization. It all favors Pat Fryermuth. You got to believe Pat's going to finish with at least 5 touchdowns. Darnell's got a good season if he finishes with 3. It's a great year for Darnell Washington. I would go Pat Fryermuth. It was cool to see Darnell get in the end zone. I hope that continues. I expect it to continue, but I expect Pat's usage at some point this season to just really start to have an uptick.
We have one last what's more likely, then a handful of listener questions to get to. But let's start with Jeff Cole's what's more likely. Broderick Jones stays with the Steelers and becomes a bench tackle, or he goes to another team and becomes an all-pro left tackle.
Oh, man. It's funny because it's true. What's more likely is that he goes to another team and becomes an all-pro tackle. I don't think either of these are necessarily super likely to happen. I think the most likely scenario is he becomes the starting left tackle of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the most likely scenario. That we have to come a long way before the end of the season. Decisions have to be made. The Steelers have to not listen to this podcast because I will tell them that Dan Moore should be the starting left tackle. But if they do all those things, if all those things happen, he will become the starting left tackle in 2025 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But if we're just picking between these two, because that's what we do here, I'm going to say he becomes an all-pro somewhere else because he's an all-pro. He's got the talent level of an all-pro. He's not putting on display of an all-pro. You got to imagine he goes to wherever, the Rams, the Eagles, the wherever, and becomes an all-pro left tackle. And the Steelers are like, well, remember when we drafted him 14th overall? Yeah, good times. Good times. Because that's what they do. And that's what they always do. So I would say what's more likely is he's named an all-pro somewhere else and everybody's complaining about it in like 3 years.
Let's actually do one more what's more likely because Sean jumped in here and said, what's more likely, the Steelers finish atop the AFC North or they finish in a wild card spot?
This is a very good one. I'm glad that we finished with this one. What's more likely? Steelers finish top of the AFC North. And you want to know why? Because the Steelers went undefeated in the AFC North last year. And you got to think that they hold an upper hand on a Ravens team that is living and dying off of Lamar and Derrick Henry, which is in the Steelers' favor. If Baltimore was winning through their defense, the Steelers are in trouble because the Steelers' defense right now is shaky. But you got to imagine the Steelers are still going to hold up well against Lamar because they do it every single time. The Bengals are atrocious. And Jameis is going to be good for the first one, but chances are not for the second one. The Steelers aren't going to lose to the Browns twice. I would say what's more likely, they win the AFC North simply because they hold a lead and all they got to do is keep it. And I mean, if they lose 4 more games in the back half, they still probably get very close. So you got to, what's more likely, they win the AFC North.
All right, we do have one more, and I swear this is the last one, but it's because it's the artist formerly known as the Fields is for the Pickens, now more commonly known as Unlimited Moonballs, who says, what's more likely, Cam Sutton catches Beanie Bishop in interceptions or Joey Porter catches Dante Jackson in interceptions?
Wow, dude. This is why I don't pull the comments up. I let Nick handle the comments. I just stare at his face the whole time. This is unbelievable. Fantastic name, my friend. Blew it out of the park. Unbelievable. Cam Sutton catches Beanie and INTs or George Pickens catches.
He meant
Joey Porter
catches Jackson.
I'd go Cam. 3 interceptions. You got to go Cam. Why didn't you put Beanie Bishop in the lead in the interceptions here? What are we doing here? We're not.
He says
favoritism.
They're both.
No. I'm talking about you. when we
Me?
talked leading the league in interceptions.
Oh, I guess Beanie Bishop is tied there. I mean,
Yeah.
based on the ESPN thing, it says Dante over Beanie, so ESPN's being partial.
ESPN, man. This is why you come here. Cam Sutton catches Beanie Bishop, dude. The last time Cam Sutton was in Pittsburgh, he had 6 interceptions. I mean, you got to think that people are going to target him. He comes up with the football. I'm a much higher believer, bigger believer in Cam Sutton than most people. I think he's a good corner. I think he adds a lot to this room. I'm big into Cam Sutton, man. I think I would say 3 interceptions is pretty easy in the back half because he will get so many targets. Joey's not an INT guy. He finishes with 2 INTs. You're feeling real good about it. I don't think Dante Jackson's anywhere close to done. He said it himself. He said, I've always been this good. I've just played on bad teams. So it's, you don't even know what he's doing here. This is just the beginning. I would say Cam Sutton catches Beanie Bishop, but I mean, who knows, dude? Beanie Bishop could come up with another one and another one and another one. And it could be the end of the season and Beanie could lead this team in interceptions and we wouldn't even be surprised. So, but I'm going Cam Sutton and what's more likely. Shout out to Unlimited Moonballs. That is fantastic. That's a fantastic name.
And that's the best way that we could have wrapped up what's more likely. So that 100%. Is a wrap.
100%. All right. With that said, guys, we are going to dive into all of your questions. I know everything ran late, so we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. First, we got a quick word from our boys over at Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. And for any that you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them with just a few taps. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all accounts, easily creates a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track, and sees your monthly spending trends in each category to know exactly where your money is going. Get alerts if your bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over your budget. And the new goals feature automatically saves money for you without you even having to think about it. Whether your goal is to pay off your credit card debt, put away money for a house, or just build your savings, Rocket Money makes it easy. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you, sometimes up to 20%. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. They could save members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/allsteelers. That's rocketmoney.com/allsteelers. rocketmoney.com/allsteelers. Shout out our boys over at Rocket Money. While we were on break here, Dylan Cook got waived by the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a wild move to me, simply because why did you waste one of your 8 activations off of the injured reserve list to cut a guy? That doesn't make any sense. Injury settlements are a thing in the NFL. You could make them happen. You could also cut him with an injury settlement before the season. It just, okay, they got plans. I don't know them. I don't question them. I don't know them. It doesn't make any sense to me. With that said, we're going to dive into all your questions. I know that we're running late, so we'll answer as many as we can. With that said, Nick, I'm going to toss it to you. What do we got?
Peter Swisstock says, I know Danny Smith likes it, but how long are the Steelers going to keep 5 tight ends on the 40-man roster, the 53-man roster?
53-man roster. 40 is such a just
it's not baseball anymore.
Yeah, it's just an odd number. That probably for the rest of the season. There's really no reason not to. You don't have another wide receiver you're going to pull up and sign to the 53-man roster. You could cut Jonathan Ward when Cordero comes back, and you still have 3 running backs, so you could keep Rodney. Rodney's a really good special teamer, like a really good special teamer. And if your special teams unit didn't just win a game against the Giants, you'd say, well, do you really need them? But your special teams unit just won you a game. So you build and you bulk your special teams unit. Rodney Williams is worth the roster spot. So I would say Rodney's here for the rest of the season.
There were a lot of people that were arguing this at the beginning of the episode, so I figured you could just quickly put it to bed. Leroy says, are we really considering trading Justin Fields?
Yeah, I saw this immediately and started sniffing around on Google and seeing what was going on. Nothing. Nope. I didn't miss anything. I was worried I did miss something. I was gonna say I've been on my laptop all day. Yeah, no. No. The answer to this is no. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not trading Justin Fields. They have no consideration to trade Justin Fields. They don't even want to trade Justin Fields. Justin Fields doesn't want to be traded. This is it. He's their backup quarterback. Just like Russ, they weren't going to trade Russ. They're not going to trade Justin. They want both of them because if Russ has another calf injury, Justin's 4-2 as a starter. So you feel good about what he could do if he steps back in and vice versa. So the answer to this is no.
Let's go over to Prague, who says, if Sutton plays poorly, how quickly do you switch back to Beanie Bishop or try out Corey Trice?
It would be Beanie Bishop. Corey Trice isn't really a nickel guy. I mean, he is. He could play there, but they want him to be outside. I don't think Sutton's going to struggle. But if he does, I don't know, 2 games, something like that. That's why it's going to be a slow roll. Like when he doesn't play a ton in week 10, nobody come in here and be like, that's it, Cam Sutton's done. They don't even want him on the team. No. You got to get him back in football shape. You got to get him ready to roll. You got to get him adjusted to the defense. At some point, he'll be playing like full reps and Beanie will be coming off the bench. But I don't expect Cam Sutton to struggle. I really don't.
Let's go over to Macaroni Salad, who says, guys, watching the offensive coaches interviews today, I was blown away. We have a great group, maybe the best under Mike Tomlin. What are your thoughts? Also, I think Tom Arth is a future OC and potentially head coach.
I agree. I think Tom Arth is a future offensive coordinator and potentially head coach. That dude is really good. He's got a great reputation in the NFL, and he is very loved in Pittsburgh. And you're seeing what he's bringing to the quarterback room. You're seeing the camaraderie. You're seeing the friendship, the development. You've seen what he could. You could say whatever you want about Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin. Tom Arth is the guy that works with Justin Fields every single day and made sure that he was ready to go 4-2 every single day when there was uncertainty of whether or not he could win football games or be a starter or whatever. I love the coaching staff under Mike Tomlin. This is, in my opinion, the best offensive coaching staff he's had ever. The defensive side of the ball, it's a lot of the same stuff, but I still agree with it. I think Grady Brown is a future defensive coordinator in the NFL. I think Carl Dunbar is incredibly slept on. I think Denzel is slept on, and I'm excited about Aaron Curry and what he's doing with Peyton Wilson. So I do. I think that it might be it's definitely, since I've been here, the best coaching staff he's had.
Let's go over to Man Loco, who says, do you think that Nick Herbig will become a better player than Alex Highsmith? I believe he rushes the quarterback just as good as him now.
Not even close. I mean, I don't mean to be that aggressive about it, but go back and he had 12 pressures. 12 pressures against the New York Giants. Alex Highsmith is so slept on, dude. He's a Pro Bowler in my eyes. He is a guy that he will play on the other side of TJ Watt for possibly forever, and he will be looked down upon because of it forever. I get it. This is the NFL. Everybody wants the new flashy keys. Alex Highsmith is old, reliable, man, and he is damn good. He played better than TJ Watt against the Giants. Let's not act like he didn't. He played better than TJ Watt against the Giants. TJ Watt just came up with the game-winning strip sack / jumping on the fumble. I mean, Alex Highsmith's a menace. And if he could stay healthy, he does it all the time. I believe he led the league in pressures last year. He's probably pretty close. I mean, he missed some time, but I would imagine by the end of the season, he's pretty close again. No, the answer to this is no. Alex Highsmith is so good and deserves so much more respect than he gets.
Let's jump over to Nate Moore, who says, with the new report of the 3 wide receivers we're pursuing, as we talked about earlier, does that eliminate Cooper Kupp as an option for the Steelers?
I don't want to say eliminates Cooper Kupp as an option for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I know I have a really hard time putting this into words because I want to say things, but I don't want to say things and give things away. You could trust when Tony Pauline says something, you could have an understanding that it's coming from a place of intelligence, that it's coming from real sources. Okay. There's not everybody who you could say that about. Tony Pauline, when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can say that about. And let's not clip this so that I don't get phone calls from people within the Pittsburgh Steelers building, but let's just say you could trust that. I don't think it eliminates Cooper Kupp as an option, but I do think there is a reason that Mike Williams, Darius Slayton, and Cortland Sutton were the 3 names that were named and not Cooper Kupp.
Let's go over to Ears, who says, why is West Virginia dominating Pitt and feeding Steelers great players? Let's go Mountaineers.
That's funny. Because I mean, I don't know, dude. Pitt produces some good defenders, but I also think that the Kenny Pickett thing, like everybody wants to say, like Eli Holstein, man, come to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2 years, 3 years. I think they're scarred a little bit. So I would say it definitely has something to do with being too close. You know, you don't want to mix family and work, family and business. And I think that plays a role in it. Also, you know, West Virginia has some studs, and I don't care. I didn't go to Pitt, so I'll say it. West Virginia had some studs.
Let's go over to Sajan Patel, who says, do you think if we go far in the playoffs and the offense looks good, teams will be calling about Arthur Smith?
Yes. Arthur Smith is a guy who's going to get another opportunity as a head coach in the NFL. And I hope it's not for a while. I hope he stays in Pittsburgh. I hope they convince him to stay in Pittsburgh. I hope that's what he does. At the end of the day, Arthur Smith is the most commendable dude you could ever meet. He's one of the boys. There's stories about him like sleeping on couches in Tennessee because he would just stay overnight and like work as an intern and get people coffee and so on and so. What people don't understand is this guy's a son. He's the son of a billionaire. He doesn't have to do any of this. He's doing it all for the love of the game. And because of that, you got to hope that he wants to stay in Pittsburgh and be an offensive coordinator and enjoy his time and not have the pressures of a head coach. But you also got to look at it and say, there's only 32 of them, and it's an honor to be one, whether you're good at it or not. So I would guess teams are calling him. Maybe not after this year, maybe next year. You need that one like gap year, kind of like Brian Flores. He'll get calls this season, but last season he didn't. I would imagine Arthur Smith's on that same timeline.
We're closing it out with this one, and this is a banger from Carl Spackler. He said, here's a really tough question. Could TJ Watt ever surpass Mean Joe Green as the most commonly known greatest Steeler ever? Would he need multiple Super Bowls to reach him, or will final stats be more important?
I think it's impossible to surpass Mean Joe Green. I think it's impossible. I think Mean Joe Green, for a number of reasons. 4 Super Bowls is the biggest one. You know, like unless TJ wins 4 Super Bowls and is part of a dynasty, I just don't think you could. I think Troy Polamalu fits that bill too, because he was part of what was very close to a dynasty, and he was the head of that dynasty. And I think that plays a big role here. But I think the other part of this is that Mean Joe Green was the first. You know, he was the guy who started the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was the guy who did all this. There is no conversation about TJ Watt being the next great defender in Pittsburgh without Mean Joe Green being the first great defender in Pittsburgh. And that plays a lot, especially when you're talking legacy, especially when you're talking a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers and the history and the franchise of where they are. Everything the Pittsburgh Steelers have become starts with Mean Joe Green. And because of that, I would say he's insurmountable. You cannot pass him up. And I love TJ. I think TJ deserves all the credit in the world. I think TJ should go down as top 5, and depending where he finishes, top 3, maybe top 2 greatest defenders in Pittsburgh Steelers history. But I don't think you could ever surpass the guy who built it all, who started it all. And that was Mean Joe Green. And because of that, my answer to this would be no, he cannot pass him. There's probably an argument to be made for why he can. But I think that, you know, with all respect to TJ, and he would agree with me on this, like he would have the same train of thought. You don't surpass the person who gave you the opportunity to suit up for the black and gold and have it mean what it means, like TJ Watt is right now, without Mean Joe Green. So my answer would be no, but this is a phenomenal question.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Again, I hope everybody has a happy Halloween. If you're going out there to celebrate, be safe. Look both ways, like Nick said, and we will be back tomorrow, normal time, 4 p.m. I know it's the bye week, so there's questions, but we will be back at 4. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.